Hey yo, what it do, what it do? It's your boy Q, and we got ourselves a little less than a week until the RLCS World Championships for 2024, and y'all already know how we do over here. That means it's time for some pick'ems, baby. And if it's your first time through and maybe you aren't familiar with who I am, what up? As I said earlier, I'm your boy Q. Not only does your boy shoutcast over in the SSA region on the main broadcast for RLCS, I do the team streams as far as for the Pioneers and Split 2 this year. I also work the weekly scene quite a bit with Stride over here in NA. So let's go ahead and get down to as far as our pick'ems for this upcoming week. I know we have some people who have been through here before that probably think we're going to be doing some watch parties over here for the RLCS World like we do. Well, pretty well every other big esports kind of LAN, every big major, like we do with ALGS and BCT and stuff like that. But well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, it's definitely fortunately, your boy's actually scheduled to be introducing our second kid at the beginning of next week. So I'll probably miss the first couple of days, but as soon as we are back home and everything's all settled in, your boy's gonna try and catch up, and maybe we'll be able to watch at least for sure Championship Sunday. I would really like to watch at least maybe Saturday and maybe even Friday as well. Keep an eye out on the Discord, which will of course be down in the description below. You guys want to make sure you're up to date. Of course, if it's your first time through over here on YouTube, if you hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on, you'll also be able to tell when we go live. But let's get started with our pick'ems here. Of course, getting started in round number 1, G2 versus Limitless. Man, I said earlier, your boy does some casting over in SSA. As much as I would love to be able to say that Limitless does take a game off G2, and I mean, Limitless did look good against G2 with their G2 sub, that is, during the Esports World Cup. I just don't see Limitless taking a game. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a nice little start to their Swiss stage, where I'm thinking maybe, depending on the draw, we'll see further on down the line, we might even be able to see SSA win their first series, at least in recent history. I think it'd actually be their first one in an RLCS stage as well. I just don't see it against G2. This next series, though, when we look at Gentlemates versus Pioneers, well, that's things where things can get interesting, because Gentlemates didn't necessarily look the greatest out at Riyadh as far as for the Esports World Cup just a couple of weeks ago. Does Gentlemates return to like their old RLCS form in particular when it comes to LAN? Potentially, and I could definitely see them sweeping the Pioneers for sure. But if they don't, and they do give that ability for the Pioneers to take game number 1, I could legitimately see this thing being a situation where the Pioneers do take it and might not even need a game 5. I think the Pioneers are looking to prove a point. However, all things being said, I do think that we will see the Gentlemates squad that is from the RLCS lands in the past. I would love to give the Pioneers a game. I just think that the Gentlemates come out in this first series with a point to prove. They also get to play in front of a crowd in round number 1, which I think amps things up for the Gentlemates squad. It's not like they're just in the back at the smaller systems, right? When it comes to those usual Swiss stage days 1 and 2, I think the crowd helps Gentlemates kind of return to that form a little bit quicker. Go ahead and give me Gentlemates in a sweep. And we're going to keep that sweep train going, baby. The Falcons got a little bit of a point to prove. They also need to be able to get a little bit of redemption after dropping the Esports World Cup Grand Finals in front of their home crowd. I mean, it's honestly the best crowd that Team Falcons is ever going to have. I mean, a room that was absolutely packed to the brim with Falcons fans. And unfortunately, they fell up short. I do think because, again, in a similar fashion like we were just talking about Gentlemates, because there is going to be a crowd there, I think that helps prevent these teams, at least at the top, from overlooking those first matchups. Sometimes we see where those can be trap games, right? You're not necessarily playing from home, but you're not playing in front of a crowd, maybe overlooking the opposition. I think the crowd changes things up for that just a little bit. And I think actually because of that, I'm going to take an upset in the OG versus Furia game. I do think it'll be one that goes 5. I don't see Furia losing this series in any less than 5. But I think OG just might show up to turn some heads when it comes to Worlds. Of course, Oxygen getting in that last seed, although if you ask me, there really was only one team that would have made more sense than Oxygen to be in that. Of course, keep an eye out for the podcast later this week where we'll be talking about that. I think maybe they take a game from BDS, maybe a game. Do I want to change that to a 0? Now, we'll go ahead and keep it at a 1 here. Vitality also has a lot of questions going into the going into the RLCS World Championship. They've kind of had an up and down year. Didn't necessarily look the best at EWC as well. However, in a similar fashion, like we've talked about in those earlier matchups towards the top of the 0-0 bracket, I think the crowd helps bring things to a full, and I think that we are going to see Vitality pull off the sweep. I think Gen G also could potentially pull off the sweep, but I do think Power take one game off of Gen G. I think this is one of those series that, again, if it were played in the back and there weren't any crowd, Power might be able to pull off the upset. I just don't see it happening here. The upset that I do see happening also in the 0-0 bracket, although I don't know how much of a upset we can truly call it if we're talking about Karmine Corp, right? Obviously in that lower bracket for a reason because of the struggles in split number 2, but I don't think that there are very many people who aren't thinking that Karmine Corp doesn't have the potential to show up at Worlds and still be able to hoist the trophy here. So that, of course, sets us up for our round number 2. I think when I was looking at the schedules, what is it? Round number 1 is on Tuesday. 2 and 3 is on Wednesday. Thursday is 4 and 5. I think, right? I think that sounds about right. I'll put the schedule up on the video if I remember to. I should be able to, but we do have ourselves a pretty busy week with college, collegiate Rocket League starting back up, and of course kind of making sure we're all ready to go for next week as well. But I should be able to at least throw up that schedule on the screen here for me. If I don't, yell at me down in the comments below. Deal? G2 versus OG. Do we see OG being able to take a game off G2? That's the question. I don't think they do. I think I got to go G2 in a sweep. We get Gentlemates versus Karmine Corp in round number 2, which I think could be a banger, man. I do think, I think Karmine Corp are looking to prove that they are still one of the best teams in the world. Of course, if Gentlemates come in as that very dominant RLCS LAN team, this could potentially go the other way. But for now, go ahead and give me Karmine Corp in 5. Falcons versus Gen G. Gen G will have the crowd with them. Let's not forget that. This is an NA LAN. But I almost feel like Falcons play better when they are the underdog, or at least not the crowd favorite, right? So go ahead and give me Falcons 3-1 there. And as much as I would love to see Vitality have a very strong Swiss bracket, maybe be able to sweep their way through it, or not sweep their way through, but at least win all 3 series, I just don't see it. I don't see them winning more than a game either. I think I got to give BDS the 3-1 victory. When we're looking in that lower bracket here, Furia versus Limitless is interesting because Furia does play a little bit slower of a pace, which I do feel like could give Limitless some space to find some success. I don't think they win the series, though. I do think Limitless find a game, though, in that 0-1 bracket, which could be huge when it comes to who they play in some of these later rounds, or in particular, that 0-2 bracket. As far as their Space Station versus Pioneers, as much as I would love to be on the Pioneer train, I just feel like Space Station is the better squad. I think I'm going to give Pioneers 1, though, against Space Station, just because I don't think that Space Station... Do I? I don't think Space Station plays fast enough to completely make Pioneers uncomfortable. I think Pioneers will be able to at least put up a little bit of a fight there. Power versus Gaming Gladiators. Man, I was really high on this Power team heading into EWC because I thought they had a decent split 1 major. I thought that they were going to make it out into top 8. They did not. But then they kind of also struggled out in EWC, which has me worried for this Power Gaming Gladiators set. I do think Power does end up taking it, though. I think it ends up being close. This might be my only 3-2 in the bracket because I do think Oxygen will be able to take things over Secret. Do I think that's sweet material, though? I don't think it's quite sweet material. I think I'm going to go 3-1 there as well. So that does move us into our round 3, where we send 2 teams forward, 2 teams go home. G2 is going to be our first team in that upper bracket, or that's in that playoffs in the number 1 seed. Falcons versus BDS would be a banger as well. Falcons always does well in groups, man. Go ahead and give me Falcons. In a sweep? Nah, I'm not doing a sweep. 5? Yeah, let's do 5 for BDS. Gentlemates versus Power. I'm probably going to have to roll Gentlemates in that one. I'll give Power 1, though. I feel like if we talk about Vitality, who's coming off of a loss to BDS. Oxygen trying to build some steam off of a win versus Team Secret. Will be playing a little bit of a different pace of a game than what they saw the round before. I think Oxygen, I think Oxygen gets 1. Gen G versus Furia should be an absolute banger. Do I think Gen G has what it takes to put on for NA and send Furia down to the 1-2 bracket? I just don't feel very confident in Gen G right now. I think I gotta lean Furia's way 3-2 in that. OG versus Space Station Gaming, another knockout, drag them out. I'm gonna give it to Space Station though in 5. Now, this is where things get interesting. This is one of those draws that I do feel like Limitless does have the potential of winning. Limitless played Elevate in a show match after Major number 1. It was over on Graybeard's channel. And I want to say Limitless swept, or maybe it was like 4-1. I'll give Gaming Gladiators 1, but I think Limitless actually win a series here. And while we're going for upsets, I'm going to go ahead and just say both of my 2 underdog squads move on in that 0-2 bracket. Go ahead and give me Pioneers over Team Secret as well. I'm either cooking or capping. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think so far. As far as our bracket, we've got G2 and Falcons in that playoffs there. We've got Gladiators and Secret as our first 2 sent home. Let's go ahead and send 3 more as far as into that playoff bracket here. BDS versus Space Station Gaming. I think BDS takes it. Does Space Station take 1 or 2? I think I'm going to give them 1. Carmine Corp versus Furia in the 2-1s. Banger. I'm going to have to give it to Carmine Corp, though, 3-2. Now, here's where things get interesting as far as in the 2-1 bracket, right? Because Gentlemates and Vitality both have so many questions. I think this will be easier to predict going into the 2-1 matchup because we'll have obviously seen both of these 2 teams on LAN. I think I got to roll with Zen, though. Go ahead and give me 14 of a possible 15 games in our 2-1 bracket. Vitality 3-2. Gen G versus Pioneers. Sorry, Pioneers. I would love to say that you guys go further. I just don't see it. I think it's probably... Whoa, imagine Pioneers winning 10 games. That'd be wild. 3-0. Oxygen over Limitless. I think Oxygen with their backs up against the wall have extra confidence due to the fact that they are playing a Limitless. Limitless are going to come in and feel good, so I think they take a game. But I think that's it. And then Power versus OG to figure out which of these 2 teams gets sent home. I think I still got to believe in the OCE super team that's just had the dominance that they have. That's going to be a banger, though. It's going to go all 5 games. So I think we'll have to roll with that. We got Gentlemates, Oxygen, Furia, Power, Space Station, and Gen G. So we have 3 more teams to advance, 3 more to send home. Oxygen, yo, y'all got here kind of by luck. Y'all ain't getting out of Swiss, though, dogs. I hate to say it. It's going to be 3-1 there. Unfortunate for Power that their run is also going to have to end shy. I don't even know if they win a game against Furia, though. I think Furia going to come in and spice things up. And then Space Station Gaming versus Gen G. Space Station Gaming, of course, missing split number 1 major, thanks to the fact that they consistently were getting knocked out by Gen G or G2. Can they get over the hump and beat Gen G in order to secure themselves a spot in that playoffs? I don't see it. I think it's going to be a close 4-game series. I don't think it goes 5. Go ahead and give me Space Station Gaming in 4. So let's go ahead and look at the bracket here, see what that's going to pan out for us. Not too bad. Here's our listing so far. So when we look at our bottom 8, Gen G, Oxygen, Power, OG, Limitless, Pioneers, Secret, and Gladiators. So we have our Swiss tiebreakers because we're not going into just a simple full bracket double elimination. This is World Championships. So we're going to start off with the Swiss tiebreaker, BDS versus Vitality. Vitality just goes through a banger as far as to get here against Gentlemates. Then has to play in a tiebreaker versus BDS. I don't see Vitality taking it. Go ahead and give me BDS in a 3-1 fashion, which then makes things interesting because you got Vitality versus Carmine Corp. I think Carmine Corp are going to have a point to prove. Plus, it's going to be Vitality coming off the back of a loss as well. It might be 2-3-1s, honestly, for Vitality losing to get sent into that lower bracket, which sets the stage for everything else from there. And it's G2 versus Carmine Corp in our upper bracket quarterfinals. Let's go ahead and start up in our upper bracket, actually. I think that's going to be a 6-game series, 4-2 in favor of G2. I feel like these two played somewhat recently, right? Didn't G2 beat them at Split 2 Major? Oh, I was thinking of Team Falcons versus Carmine Corp, which they technically split that series. Yeah, they did play Gen G, but they did not play against G2. So yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and give that one to... Well, we'll give that one as far as to G2. When we think about Falcons versus BDS, however, we do have to think as far as for them, Falcons beat BDS 3-2 in the Swiss bracket of stage of major number 2. Of course, BDS then had that abysmal performance against Gentlemates in the opening round of playoffs. Does feel like BDS bounced back a little bit, obviously, with the EWC performance thus far through the tournament, as well as where we've got them here. I do think, though, Falcons are going to continue their dominance of being a team that is phenomenal up until the grand finals. Go ahead and make that a 7-game series, though, where BDS loses 4-3. So that pretty well sets this bracket for that lower run here. So let's go ahead and set the stage. And let's get down and do what it do here, shall we? Vitality, I do think, takes home the victory over Space Station Gaming 4-2. Which sets up a rematch for the lower bracket quarterfinals, funny enough. Gentlemates over Furia, right? I mean, last time these two teams played, Furia did have the better of them. Gentlemates haven't been playing that well. That was during Swiss, though. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for 3. Yeah. I'm not that sure Gentlemates is going to be able to have another great RLCS performance. Maybe something a little bit closer to what we saw from EWC. So Furia 4-1. Carmine Corp versus Vitality. in the lower bracket quarterfinals. It's interesting, right? Because when we think about last year, it was Vitality and Carmine Corp in the semifinals. Vitality was on that impressive run. They won 4-2. In our current scenario, we had Carmine Corp winning the last series 3-1. Do we trust Vati and Coach Farah to be able to come out on top here? I do think that we do. And I'm thinking 4-2 is probably what I'm thinking as far as score there. BDS versus Furia. Again, BDS coming off a very decent performance in EWC. Furia did, of course, advance further than them in the... Oh, I guess they didn't advance further than them. They went just as far during these Split 2 playoffs. Playoffs? Y'all knew I was going to get at least one in there. Yeah, you know what? I think I've got to roll because of recent performances. I think I've got to roll BDS, and I think this is probably going to be another one where it's not that close, probably 4-1. Just 'cause I think BDS is going to be able to play a faster brand of ball. So that gives us Falcons versus Carmine Corp. G2 versus BDS is our semi-finals here. So with our semi-finals, and it's interesting, we look back to Major 1 as far as for Falcons versus Carmine Corp. They did play against each other twice. Falcons won the first time in 5. Carmine Corp won the second one in 7. Falcons have been looking more consistent. And it's not like it's a grand final matchup. But Carmine Corp will be riding the wave and will probably still have a good fan turnout. Although I do feel like the good fan turnout probably actually favors Falcons in this case, because they seem to play better when they're not the crowd favorite and when it's not the grand finals. Every time we've seen these teams play against each other earlier in the season, though, it did go the distance. I don't think this one is any different. Let's go G2. Or sorry, let's go Falcons 4-3. In a game 7. G2 versus BDS in our semi-finals. Of course, G2 finally got the BDS monkey off their back in split number 1 playoffs. However, in the split number 1 playoffs, they did not end up going on to win, right? Whereas obviously in split 2 playoffs, they did. And they never played BDS. They're on opposite sides of the bracket. BDS has been looking good recently, but honestly, G2 looked solid in EWC, and that was even without Beast Mode. I think you put Beast Mode back in there. And I think we get a run back from our Split 2 Grand Finals with G2 versus Falcons. So can G2 go back to back? Or can Falcons finally get the grand final monkey off their back, take down G2 in front of an NA crowd? We did say earlier that Falcons do tend to do better whenever they are playing, as far as it seems like against the crowd. Who do we think wins this one, chat? I feel like it has to be G2, right? You pick up Beast Mode back. You get the redemption against Falcons. But how many games do we give Falcons then? Because what, it was 4-1 at Split 2 Major? The chances of us getting 2 game 7s, I feel like, is so low. So go ahead and make it 6. G2 walks away. It's got... it's got the teammates. Oh, I love it. I love it. So G2 walk away as your world champs. RLCS in 2020. 2024. Guys, let me know what y'all think as far as the picks, where I was right, where I was wrong. Like I was saying earlier, we are going to be doing some watch parties like we do, well, really across multiple esports over here on the channel. I'm not going to be doing them the first couple of days though, all right? So if you guys are wanting to make sure that you're pulling up for those, make sure you, if you haven't already done so, you hit that subscribe button down below and you turn those notifications on. But also, if you made it this far in the video, man, whether it's letting me know where I was right or where I was wrong, or just let me know who your guys' favorites are, those comments that y'all leave, as well as when y'all tap that like button, those are the two things that tells YouTube they should be pushing my content out to more people. We're chasing down that first 500 subs, which of course would put us halfway to that first 1,000. So every like, every comment, every subscriber, all of those means so much. Thanks for helping me out, hitting that like button, leaving a comment, let me know who you guys think is going to win this thing. And until we catch y'all back over here for the next one, man, don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love hard. All right, y'all? It's your boy Q, signing out.